Hello again. This video will cover the basics of Bedman's jump and air dash. Bedman's air dash is a very dense subject, and for the sake of this video being beginner friendly, I intend to make another video in the future to detail more the finer intricacies of his air dash. This video will focus more on how to perform an air dash, the rules of his air dash, and some exercises on how to apply it. Part 1. Bedman's jump. Bedman can jump normally like any character, but he's the only character that cannot actually double jump. You know how jumping works. You play video games, you know what to expect, there's nothing else to see here. Part 2. How to perform Bedman's 8-way air dash. The most defining aspect of Bedman is his air dash. He's the only character in the game who can air dash in any 8 direction he desires, granting him immense versatility in the air. To perform an air dash with Bedman is not immediately intuitive and will take time to get used to. Here are the steps. Step 1. Be airborne. You can't air dash if you're not in the air. Step 2. Press up once you're airborne. This will put Bedman in a suspended hover state. You need to be in a state to initiate an air dash. Step 3. Hold any direction for around half a second to have Bedman fly towards that direction. Let me show you an example. Here I jumped in the air. Once I reached a certain height from the ground, I tapped up to enter the hover state. Afterwards I held forward to perform a forward air dash. But let's say I want to perform a backwards air dash. I just have to hold back after I enter the hover state. And this applies to all 8 directions and not just forward and backwards, hence why it's called an 8-way air dash. You can air dash straight up to gain more height. You can air dash up backwards to retreat to the skies. You can air dash directly downwards to land as soon as possible. You have a lot of freedom. Also note to enter hover, you can also press up forward or up back. As long as you press up in some fashion, you'll enter hover state, assuming you're not barely above the ground. There is a minimum height restriction to enter hover state. You can also proceed to do nothing during the hover if you need a moment to plan a move. After a while, Bedman will just fall from the hover. You can't reinitiate hover until you land or if the opponent attacks you. That's it. 3 easy steps. Go airborne, press up, hold the direction to move towards that direction. It's not hard. Part 3. The rules of Bedman's air dash. Bedman is limited to one air dash airborne typically, but there are ways to get your air dash again without touching the ground. If Bedman is hit while airborne and he techs out, he can air dash once again. Similarly, if he blocks an attack airborne and it recovers, then he can air dash as well. Unlike other characters, Bedman is able to block, faultless defense, or blitz shield immediately after air dashing. He could protect himself fairly well. It's important to note that Bedman cannot throw or tech throws during his air dash or after he performed his air dash, so be careful. I also want to talk about his air dash momentum and tension gain with an air dash. Bedman's air dash will have a lot of hang time and drag if you don't opt for an action after an air dash. Notice in this clip that doing an air dash raw without any action afterwards has him darting towards a direction and then braking. However, the moment you take any action, be it attacking, faultless defense, or blitz shielding, Bedman will carry his momentum for the rest of the airtime until he lands or alters it in another way. You can use this momentum to effectively travel further, but do note once you're riding on the momentum, you're no longer gaining tension. Tension is only gained with Bedman's air dash if you're doing the air dash only. This is why when you play actively like this, you're actually not generating much meter. However, air dashing is not an efficient method to gain tension in general in a neutral game. Walking and crawling are much better in that regard. Part 4. Getting started with Bedman's air dash. Bedman's air dash has a lot of nuances and tidbits that are better covered in separate videos, so instead of dumping all that information onto you and choking you figuratively, I think it's better to provide some exercises, especially if you're a new player that is exploring Bedman as an option. One of the most important and basic Bedman's offensive air pressure strings is to do his far slash, then jump canceling it, and then once you're airborne, enter the hover state and air dash forward, with jump kick, jump punch, and jump punch, followed by 2K when you land. Bedman's air dash allows him to string many combinations in the air, all of which are overhead and must be blocked standing. The string I mentioned is 3 quick overheads, and should any of them hit, you can land and confirm with 2K once you land. This could pave the way for other things as well. Instead of jump kick, jump punch, you could do jump kick and jump slash. There's a lot of possibilities and combinations in which I recommend you to try on your own. Heck, just even try a jump heavy slash instead. It's a 6 hit overhead. It's really cool. Here's the second exercise. Do a super jump, then air dash straight down, followed by jump slash. This is a particularly strong tool in a neutral game. You're essentially painting a defensive wall, and should the opponent try to enter near it, they're in danger of being hit. This is particularly strong when you have other things on the screen that may condition your opponent to go in. It's also very strong against generally aggressive opponents. Finally, I'll end with a third exercise. This is similar to the first exercise, but instead of doing a forward air dash, you're air dashing down forward. This is more intended when you're close to the opponent. Air dashing forward when you're too close to the opponent might have you fly over them. Air dashing down forward allows you to quickly strike from the air. This exercise will have you do close slash, jump canceling it, air dash down forward, followed by jump kick. It's pretty simple, but it's very useful. Conclusion. Some intermediate Bedman players may be disappointed at how fundamental this video is, but don't worry, each aspect of Bedman's air dash deserves an analysis on its own. I see a lot of Bedman players who look absolutely confused in a neutral game. They never learned the basic framework on how to mount an offensive pressure with Bedman's air dash, nor have they figured out how to cover areas of the screen with the air dash. Practice Bedman's air dash until it's second nature for you. If you can air dash on demand, the rest will come much easier. For experienced Bedman players, I have some relevant advice as well. In higher level play, relentless air dashing sets you up for situations that you might not be able to react to. Furthermore, you build less tension when you're frantically air dashing everywhere. Good movement is not erratic movement. Good movement is deliberate and efficient one. If I just frantically move around like a monkey, I'm not maintaining proper control of what I can answer my opponent with, should they make a move. Furthermore, air dashing has to enter the hover state, so frantic air dashing has a lot of hiccups where Bedman is temporarily paused. Bedman is not fast, so don't play him like he is. Lastly, experienced opponents will attempt to anti-air your air dash attempts. Remember your defensive options airborne. Use Bedman's hover as a method to throw off their timing or predictions. Anyways, that's it for now. Next video will be a basic overview of Bedman's normals.